I mean, a lot of it's put into the fact that you're fighting 3 rounds instead of 5. I mean, a lot of people talking about that. Does that affect the way you approach training?
You know, it has to change a little bit. Train still hard, still monotonous at times, but a little easier on my body. Maybe not scoring as many rounds. Getting ready for a 3-round fight.
Somewhere you said that you think you've got to start faster. Obviously, you started kind of slow in the past, and you've got to do it in 3 rounds. I'm curious though, was that a conscious thing when you were fighting all these 5 rounds that hey, I've got to pace myself, or was it just kind of a result of being in those 5-round fights time after time?
Yeah, I really couldn't tell you. I wish I had the answer. I don't know if it's necessarily I finish slow, or I start slow, or I finish strong. But it's something that we definitely emphasize during camp. Is 3-round fight, you got to get out the gate.
How do you make a conscious decision? It's just a matter of making sure you're going 100% as soon as you get going. Is that it?
Pretty much. It's always going 100%. That get you in trouble too. But being a little more conscientious of getting that first round.
I saw a lot of people mentioning 135 pounds to you in the lead up to this fight. Where is that coming from?
I don't know. I'll never walk away from this weight issue. You know what I mean? So.
You go to 135 and ask you about flyweight.
Right. Yeah.
Is that an honest consideration though?
No, not right now. Not right now. Never know what the future holds. I'm not even closing the door on 55. Who knows?
How much pressure do you feel going into this fight, being that you have the last few, 7 fights of yours were all title fights? Is there more or less pressure for you going into this fight?
For me, the pressure I put on myself is always the same. From my very first fight to my last fight, it all feels the same to me because I want to win them badly. So when a title's on the line, it's obviously more implications for winning a belt and for the media and everything. But for me, it's all the same.
How hard is it? I was going to say, you've had some tough losses, so I'm curious, every time you go back to the gym after that, I mean, how do you wrap your mind around getting over what just happened, but feeling, in a way, since a lot of people believe you won the fights, how do you get past the heartbreak of that and continue to move forward?
I think it's just, like I said, losing's the worst. It sucks. It's disappointing, especially, I work very hard, and I go into fights believing I'm going to win. But I try to take out something positive, and I'm proud of my performances. They were close fights. People say they go the way, but regardless, I lost. I was proud of how I showed up and how I fought.
So based on the fights with Benson and with Jose Aldo, what do you see that you are proud of? What do you think, I nailed that in that fight, and I'm going to take that and move forward with that?
I just think it's the things that we talked about in camp. You got to watch this, and you got to make sure you do this, and how I listen to my coaches, and just the toughness I show in fights. That's what I'm proud about.
And I've been asking everybody this, but since you're a person who's gotten many bonuses, how do you feel about the idea that fight night bonuses might not be around?
I didn't know that, so yeah, I don't feel very good about it.
Well, they're saying in order to pay everybody more, maybe they'll remove the fight night bonuses.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think I don't know, quite a few fight of the nights, knockout of the night. I like them fight bonuses.
What did you know about Oliveira? I mean, obviously this is a guy that you probably weren't following his career maybe the way you were some of your other opponents that were a little more high profile. I'm curious, what did you know about him going in, and then how much studying did you do to familiarize yourself with him?
And I remember when he first came in the scene, he had definitely a lot of hype. He was at 55 while I was there, so and then we both dropped down to 45. Yeah, what was the question again?
Just how much you knew about him. I mean, did you watch a lot of his fights? Were you familiar with his game? Or
yeah, I'm familiar with watching him as a fight fan, and then as we found out that was going to be my opponent. My coaches watch more than I do. I'm not a huge tape guy, but they'll force me to sit down and dissect some things. But yeah, I definitely I'm always prepared.
And when you see him, he's all arms and legs, and he's going to have that advantage on you. So how do you make sure you don't eat too much stuff when you're trying to get inside and deliver your game?
Yeah, that's part of the puzzle. You know what I mean? You got to make sure you get inside and not take damage in the process. But that's that chess match.
Would you say? What I was going to say. Would you say you spent extra time on jiu-jitsu though, knowing that he's very strong in that element of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working my jiu-jitsu forever. It's I know a lot of people. Haven't got an opportunity to use it much in my last 6-7 fights, probably since BJ. But I prepared for guys that are very good in jiu-jitsu before, and it's no different with Charles. He's obviously a different game than maybe those guys. But I have some great coaches behind me, and like I said, I'm always prepared.
Is there any frustration at all? I mean, he is a very long and tall guy for 145 pounds. You drop down division, and you're still facing game planning for a dude that's longer than you, that's got reach. Is there any frustration when you're like, here we go again?
It's not really. I don't really pay attention to that stuff, and I'm like you said, I've been fighting bigger guys. This time he's not going to be as thick though. You know what I mean? He's a little thinner, but taller.
Frankie, you've been around for a long time, but do you ever get tired of being part of what is one of the biggest fights of the year, one of the biggest fights in Las Vegas? It's all this hoopla and all the hype.
Not at all, man. That's why we do this. You know, I'm not a big attention seeker or a guy like that, but how could you not love this? This is I think every athlete's dream is to be on the biggest stage, showcasing your skills.
Are you surprised at the rapid rise in the sport and how big it's getting? It just seems every fight just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's amazing what the UFC has done with this with MMA in the past 20 years, and just to look on to the next 20, who knows what could happen.
So after your fight, when you're sitting in the locker room, who's your pick, Weidman or Silva?
I've been getting this asked a lot, and Weidman's a friend of mine, East Coast boy. We train alongside at Henzo, so of course I got to stick with my homie.
How good is he? I mean, this is the thing. We all know he's good, and we haven't seen him in a year, though. And so in this year that we've not seen him, but you've had the ability to see him training, how much better has he gotten? How good is he these days?
Yeah, he's great. He is. He's everything that the media's saying, that other fighters are saying. He comes in here with confidence, puts it together, anything can happen.
I know that you were saying, look, I'm tired of talking about whether I won a fight, whether I lost a fight, how the judges scored it, all that. What do you feel? I mean, is this like a fresh start for you? Is this a new beginning? Is this a new chapter? Or are you still right there, trying to get back in contention? Where do you feel like you're at in your career?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't look at that really. I just look at the big picture. Like, this is my next fight, and of course, title contention. That's what I want to get to. I like being in the main events. I like fighting for titles. I want to be the number one in my weight class.
Does it give you a little bit of confidence that even though you have had the losses, that the UFC is still putting you in such a high-profile fight? Obviously they have a lot of respect for you to put you in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to be recognized for the efforts I put in and for the performances I put on.
What did you take away from those last 3 fights with Vincent and Jose that you're going to put into your game now, that you're going to apply into what you do in the future?
Like I said, I don't think there's too much I could really change. I think I performed well. Maybe, like I said before, just come out the gate a little hotter. All right, thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Hey, Frank, appreciate it.